On today's episode of Spotlight, Decision Day came and went for the boys in gold, and now we are all in on the MLS Cup Playoffs, recapping Nashville SC Inter Miami and taking a look at a best-of-3 series with the Herons. Today on Spotlight. Welcome into Spotlight. It is a two-man show today for what we hope is 2 games against Inter Miami. Jalil, Anibaba, great to be back with you. Great to be talking about playoff soccer. How we doing?
Always, man, always. Anytime it's decision day, there's going to be some form of drama. We had that, and now that is behind us. The regular season is closed, and now, essentially, the season starts.
Always drama when Nashville SC and Inter Miami get together, which they are about to do as well in the MLS Cup Playoffs. But, Jalil, let's start with decision day. As Inter Miami beats Nashville 5-2 here in this stadium, Nashville gets up to a 2-1 advantage at halftime. Miami scores 4 unanswered in the second half. What adjustments did Miami make, and how did the Herons make things so difficult on Nashville in the second half?
Well, it was definitely a rope-a-dope performance as far as Miami is concerned. In the first half, they sat back and let Nashville kind of drive and dictate the flow of the game. Nashville had pretty much all of the chances, save Messi's goal in the first half. And it was a tale of if you don't bury your chances, which everybody knows it's going to be very difficult for you, when Miami says, okay, now we're ready to get our offensive juices going.
With the goals and with the goal contributions from Sam Surridge and Hany Mukhtar, they become the 7th pair of teammates in MLS history to combine for 40 goals in a single season. Those 2 forwards, prolific all season, Jalil. Yeah. We're going to need them at their best going forward into the postseason as well. What did you like about the way Nashville was able to create opportunities, especially in that first half, where you feel like you maybe could have been able to get even more?
Yeah, foot on the gas is what I really liked. Coming out of the gate saying, okay, this is our home stadium. We are up for the challenge. We're going to put you under a lot of pressure. We're going to create a ton of goal-scoring opportunities. And then, of course, if you're unable to hit the back of the net as consistently as the chances that they created, again, it's going to create a very difficult situation for you the later the game goes against Miami. And that's exactly how the game played out.
So I think the interesting dynamic of this game, Jalil, is, to me, attackers against attackers. There's a pressure that's created, isn't there, when you know Lionel Messi is on the other side. And I almost liken it to, in football, a quarterback isn't playing against a quarterback, but you know if you've got Patrick Mahomes on the other side, you might have to put up 30 to 40 points, right? There's pressure on you against that quarterback's defense, even though, obviously, if I'm playing the Chiefs' defense, I'm going up against Chris Jones, not Patrick Mahomes. All that to say, there is a pressure on Nashville attackers. There's a pressure on any attacker playing Inter Miami to know every chance feels that much more important. Every opportunity inside of goal feels that much more pivotal because you know that Lionel Messi, with just a half sight of goal, is going to be able to find to the back of the net. Walk me through how that weighs on you in your minds as a Nashville player, knowing what you're up against.
Yeah, it feels like you have to be perfect playing against Miami, especially when their offense is at full force, because you pretty much do. You pretty much do have to be perfect. When you create the chances, you have to be able to bury them. But look, we're talking about a situation from the captain's club. Very easy to say that you need to bury all the chances, because what's going on in the mind of players is, okay, I need to put this top bins as opposed to just putting it in the back of the net. I need to make sure that I am doing every single thing, the touches, the through ball, perfectly. And that's not a space mentally to be optimal. You have to be able to play free. So when you're able to analyze this game and look forward, you have, like you said, at least 2 chances to make sure that you get it right. There's going to be an ample load of film. There's going to be hyper criticizing of how can we make this a situation where, yes, we are perfect, but we're putting ourselves in situations where you can mentally be calm. Very much easier said than done, but the way that you're able to do that, though, is to make sure that everybody is on the same accord, and sometimes it's about making one more pass so that the finish actually is easier.
Well, these 2 teams seem to just be intertwined throughout each other's histories. Obviously, expansion brothers in 2020. Nashville SC's first ever playoff game and win came against Inter Miami back in 2020, a game that you were there for and a part of. Also, of course, the League's Cup final here in this building, 2023. Wherever there is Nashville in a pivotal moment and big moment, They just seem to find Inter Miami. That's the position we're in here again in the first round of the MLS Cup Playoffs. I want to go back, though, to 2024 in a moment. Nashville's southern rival Atlanta was in against Miami. Inter Miami lost in the first round of the MLS Cup Playoffs last year. And to your point about how high the standard is and how high the bar is to beat this team, it can be done. And in the first round of the playoffs, it has been done. Walk me through, if you will, what worked for Atlanta, if you remember, and what didn't work maybe for Miami. How are the Five Stripes then able to get past Miami, and what does Nashville maybe take away from that performance?
Yeah, it's a good question. Well, the first thing to remember about Atlanta's run in the playoffs last season is that their run into the playoffs was very, very confidence boosting, right? And for me, they were able to really galvanize all of that and not be worried about going into the game against Miami. And also, if you look at their history too against Miami in 2024, they actually had Miami's number. So it's a little bit different, but with Nashville, they have really struggled against Miami in the Messi era. That's no slight or anything like that, but it's just the fact. And when a team has your number, you're trying to do every single thing that you can to make sure you get right on the other side of that. For me, what I think Nashville needs to do is to just keep it simple. Stick to the fundamentals. Stick to what you do very, very well. That is releasing Schaffelberg on the wing, getting Sam Surridge floated to the back post, letting Hani operate in between those little half awkward spaces to defend, and let the defense continue to do what they do, and that's defend as a very cohesive unit, whether it's Eddie or whether it's Brugman or whether it's Yazbek in front of them, hunt like dogs, and just play your style, because the games do play out the way that they should. And if you just stick to who you are and don't try to change too much, that is how you always have the best chance to be able to get what you want.
Nashville will go into the postseason as well, maybe hoping for better news on Ahmed Qasim and Johnny Perez. And you saw how Miami was able to impact this game late. Nashville with two wingers who were questionable for this match, who were not able to make the bench. Maybe you hope you're able to get them back over the span of this three-game series as well. Looking at what Nashville did well, though, Jalil, what positives does Nashville take away from this performance to say, all right, this is what worked? What will BJ Callahan see in film this week to say, let's build on these positives and do this more consistently in order to have success?
Miami doesn't defend that well in the wide areas, especially when they're set. And that plays perfectly into the hands of what Nashville does well. There's no answer from Miami for Andy Nahar. So can you get him in more advanced positions? Because you saw BJ Callahan made a change toward the end to play him as a right winger when Josh Bauer comes into the game. And in the first half, like we were talking about, he was excellent along with the attacking group. It seems to be kind of the name of the game. Andy Nahar into Hani Mukhtar, slid out to Jacob Schaffelberg, a ball clipped to the back post. That's quintessential Nashville. But for me, it's going to be the continuation of both Andy Nahar and Daniel Lovitz getting forward when they can to dissect that Inter Miami offense and the midfielders that help protect that back line for Inter Miami. And then, of course, being very aggressive when the defense steps forward. I thought in the first half, the defense was very, very, I would say, aggressive. When anytime Suarez was in and around the ball, boom, there was somebody right there. And you can't really defend in that way as effectively when you're sat back. And I didn't see the second half as Nashville being sat back as choice. It was because Miami had the brunt of the ball, and you have to honor their ability and in possession and goal-scoring opportunities and creation.
For me, BJ Callahan talks about the green zone being the area between the defensive midfield line and the back line. I think there's space there for Nashville, to be honest with you. And I think that ball from the fullback to the winger, then cutting in, allowing then a center back to step up, and then you're free. And then it's Sam Surridge running in behind. It's Hani Mukhtar running in behind. That pass is going to be so critical in this series. And it's been so critical for Nashville all season as they find that space. Tomas Aviles and Falcone both step up in that moment, because Sergio Busquets at this point of his career is not a player that's covering a ton of space. His positioning is good, but how many positions can he really have, right? Over 90 minutes. So that to me is the key. When you get the ball in that area, can you make the final pass and can you convert your chances? Because Nashville 3-4 up in the first half, maybe you can go into the second half a bit more conservatively and change the way the flow of that game goes on Saturday.
Yes, I agree with everything that you said except for the last point. Okay. I don't think it will ever be to your benefit to play conservatively against Miami. If you have the opportunity to keep your foot on the gas, you got to do it. easier said than done. But the reason why is because if they get you in a set where you have to defend in a low block, you have 3, maybe 4 players that are arguably the best to have ever played their position. And what those 4 players are very, very good at doing, better than probably anyone we've seen in football globally, is to break down low blocks.
Well, Jalil, finishing up the season, it also gives us a chance to look at the big goal B.J. Callahan had for the squad before the year.
Yep.
They talked about it in preseason, 50 goals. They got 58. What does that say about this attack? What does it say about B.J. Callahan's system that they are able year over year to make such massive strides in their goal scoring?
Well, I mean, you get 58 goals. It also comes with 54 points. So that is 18 points more than last season. Of course, last season is completely different, but you always want evolution. You want growth. You want to be able to put a flag in the sand and say, this is a realistic achievement. And anytime you do that and your team exceeds what you set out to do, you're typically in a good spot. But you can't really look at the stats in isolation. They have to always be compared to something or mirrored to something that's on the other end. Nashville, too, is one of the better defenses in the Eastern Conference, right? So when you score more than you set out to score and your defense is still on point, that's exactly why you're able to avoid the play-in game. You're in a very good spot going into the playoffs against an opponent. You always want to be tested against the best. Everybody understands why, because if you're able to knock off Miami in the first round, nobody's going to want to play you.
Sure. Yeah, well, B.J. Callahan talks a lot about doing what they say they're going to do as a club, setting that standard, following through on it, a big deal for NSC 2.0, which really in a lot of ways kick-started and started this year. Well, we are excited for round 1 of the MLS Cup Playoffs. We need you here in this building. November the 1st, we need full volume from Music City as the boys in gold chase another trophy and look to add on to the U.S. Open Cup that fans got a chance to see here in this building over the weekend as well. Friday, the fun begins. It is Friday night football in Fort Lauderdale. 7 o'clock, MLS Season Pass on Apple TV, where you watch Game 1 between Nashville SC and Inter Miami. And of course, you can listen as well. I'll have to call myself, Eddie Carvacho, 7 o'clock right here on our radio partner as well, 104.5 The Zone.